Hi, I am Ashley Jones, and I'm the host of the Calm and Courageous podcast. In 2018, I gave birth to my second son, Elijah, and he is deaf. We also have Isla, who has a similar hearing loss. I looked around and I didn't know many families who were dealing with the same circumstance, and I decided to create the Calm and Courageous podcast. I've had the honor of interviewing mothers, caregivers, educators who are living with disability or are raising children who have disability or different diagnosis. I hope that you tune in to each episode so we can shine a light on ableism and celebrate disability pride together.
Hi, Dr. Hall, and welcome to the Calm and Courageous podcast, a parent's guide to powerful allyship in raising children with disabilities.
Hello.
I'm so glad you're here. I'm going to read your bio and then we'll jump right in.
Okay.
Dr. Stacy Hall is a teacher of deaf and hard of hearing children, elementary school age, who is passionate about helping children find their voice and reach their full potential. Outside the classroom, she spends a lifetime as a sibling of a brother with special needs, and an experience that has deeply shaped her perspective on family, advocacy, resilience, and compassion.
Yes.
Today, she shares her story and the lessons she learned about growing up as a sibling, balancing caregiving with everyday life, and finding purpose through challenge and joys that have defined her journey. That is beautiful. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you.
So, Dr. Hall, tell me a little bit about what it was like growing up with a sibling with special needs.
Well, I don't want to paint it as sunshine and roses because it wasn't always easy. I was the younger sibling, and my mom often joked that when she brought me home from the hospital after I was born, my brother bit me.
Oh no.
So that was my first introduction to my brother.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he's about 18 months older than me. And when I, just hearing the stories from my mom growing up, from when I was a baby, like he had a lot of challenges. Like he wasn't potty trained at a normal age, things like that. And then when I was born 18 months later and things came easy for me,
Yeah.
when I was able to walk or when I was able to use the bathroom on my own, that kind of encouraged my brother to do those things as well.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, so then, in my childhood, it was like a competition kind of thing because he was smart enough to know like that he was challenged with things, right? And he saw things come easy for me. And so there was a lot of frustration towards me because, something that came so easy to me and not to him, he saw that contrast because he knew I was younger than him, but he also couldn't communicate how he felt, his wants, his needs. Um, he was able to talk, right? But he could not communicate. So
Mm,
he could talk, he could say your name, he could have full-on conversations of like, where's my mom? Where are we going? Things like that. But if it came to like his emotions, how he was feeling, if he like was hurting, anything like that, he couldn't say, Mom, I'm in pain, or, this is upsetting me. Instead, he would act out with behavior.
hmm
Yeah.
So there's a term, I don't know if you're familiar with it, it's called glass child syndrome. And
I've never heard that
okay,
until you. Yeah.
okay, it is an informal term describing healthy siblings of children with chronic illness, disabilities, or special needs whose own emotional needs are often overlooked. And I remember when we got the diagnosis for my second born that he was hard of hearing, but then through Kaiser, he was also given an autism diagnosis, which school later removed. And so when it comes to being on the spectrum, there's so many opinions around
Right.
what qualifies, what doesn't qualify, but he definitely has behaviors that are neurodivergent behaviors, right?
Mhm.
Um, that we don't know if that is because he had a later diagnosis with his hearing loss, or if it just really is some things. Either way, we just meet his needs no matter what the diagnosis is. But I say that to say it made me concerned about how it would affect his brother who does not have any disabilities, or apparent disabilities that we know of now. And I thought, well, what is this experience like for him? I know for a parent, it's scary. It creates insecurity and doubt and frustration. And I didn't know what that would be like for him. And so I started looking into how to best support him. And that's when I came across this term, and joined some Facebook groups of some adults who had siblings with disabilities so I could best support him.
Oh,
And
wow.
it made me think about it. So, do you feel like that term, um, you know, pertains to you at all? Did you ever have the glass syndrome feeling?
So I don't remember a lot from my childhood of like specific details about things, but I do remember like certain instances. So, for example, I don't know if I was that child that kept everything to myself, right? But I have an example that proves that I did, if that
Okay.
makes sense.
Mhm.
Okay, so I was in third grade. I got the chicken pox. I knew I was getting the chicken pox because my brother got him first. And as soon as I felt it on my back, I'm like, oh no, it's my turn, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
third grade was a really tough year for me. One, I had a teacher that had no compassion, understanding towards me. Um, so in that case, like I was already struggling, right? And then I got the chicken pox, so I was out of school for 2 weeks. And then right after that, I guess I didn't know at the time, but I got the infection in my left eye.
Oh gosh.
And by the time my mom knew, and she took me to the doctor was harsh with her and he said, how did you wait this long? She has to be in severe pain.
Oh,
And he said to her, how did you not bring her in before now? And it's because I never said anything.
oh,
And so that right there is an example of what I probably did is internalized a lot and thought, well, this is not a big deal,
yeah.
right? Compared to everything else going on in our life. My parents already have a lot to deal with. My brother's needs were loud, right? My needs were quiet. I tended to go in my room and read books. That was my escape, right? When I was a kid. And I was with my cat and things like that. But, I had really good parents that would always talk to me about everything of why, like
Oh, that's great.
why he had these needs, right? And why it, but it doesn't take away the fact that you have needs too. And in a way, you feel kind of guilty because there's a little bit of resentment there, right?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
take a lot more than what I would need. So there's a little bit of resentment. And then you have guilt because of that resentment.
Yes, of course. You're
Yeah.
human. Human.
Because he can't help it. He can't help
Yeah.
it that he has more needs.
Yeah. This is such a healthy conversation.
Yeah.
And so many people feel this way. They say the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Yes.
And so it's impossible to be a sibling of a child with a disability or need and not have that feeling. You have that feeling anyway with your siblings.
Right.
So, what would you say to a parent who has a child who is typical, but also has a child with a disability? How could this parent best support the able-bodied child?
Um, I know my parents did a lot to help me out. Like, for example, they would have me go with my aunt and uncle and my cousins, right? I could spend the night over there and do typical things, I guess, because I never had a typical household.
Yeah,
I would always look at my friends and be like, wow, that's so cool. They can communicate with their siblings, they can
yeah.
laugh, they can, have, so because I couldn't do that with my sibling, my parents would have me go over to my aunt and uncle sometimes, spend the night with my cousins so that I could have that typical type of connection, versus how it was in my household, you know?
Could you tell me a little bit about your parents? And I remember you telling me before that your mom was a teacher, a special education teacher.
Yes.
So did you feel like that helped her parenting your brother? How did that transfer over into your home?
I think so. From the time I was in second, third grade, she was in school to be a teacher. I remember her being a student teacher when I was in second grade, but
Wow.
I think her passion for working with special needs was even before my brother was born.
Wow.
So she just has that kind of heart. It's a very
Mm.
giving, loving heart. And to this day, she still takes care of my brother full time.
Wow.
And she's 74 years old.
Wow.
So hopefully if she hears this, she don't get mad at me for telling everyone her age. But
No.
yeah, she's a full-time caretaker for my brother. I forgot what the question was, but
Yeah. Then you said that she was a special education teacher, and I was asking did that transfer over into the home? And so you
to me,
are a teacher of the deaf.
yes.
Did that experience of having your mother as a special education teacher, what brought you to this specific? Because what most people don't realize is that deafness is a low incidence disability.
Right.
Some people will go their entire lives and never meet a deaf person, and if they do, they may not know. Not everyone tells you they can maybe hide or cover their hearing aids. Some people are
True.
passing, they have enough residual hearing where they can navigate life without anyone knowing. And so most people don't really understand deafness and what it means. So,
Mhm.
how did you become a teacher of the deaf?
So I had to really think about that in my life because I always think about why things happen. I'm just one of those people that connects things and
Yeah.
patterns and all that. My mom said when I was 4 years old, I got an alphabet book from Sesame Street because she used to
Wow.
take me to the bookstore every week. It was my favorite thing to do, and I get to pick out a book. Well, I guess when I was 4, I picked out a sign language book, and
Wow.
I would go in my room and I would teach myself from this book, and then I'd go out and have her quiz me. And if I made mistakes, I'd go back in and she'd quiz me some more and then until I got it, right? So that was like a self-determination thing at 4 years old. So I really believe it's a calling from above. I
Oh,
really do. Even if I tried to get away from it in the future because I thought, well, maybe that's not where I'm meant to be, God always brought me right back to it.
oh, I love
So that's why I know that's my calling. My opportunities growing up, my brother was in Special Olympics. Special Olympics every summer was on the School for the Deaf, California School for the Deaf, Riverside. So
What?
every summer I was on campus for Special Olympics, and there was special needs Deaf Plus kids, and I didn't know they were. I didn't know they were Deaf Plus, right? To me, they were just deaf children, and I would always see them signing, and so I was just always attracted to sign language. And then in eighth grade, I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what I want to do. And then I met this deaf individual that was Special Olympics. I was like, you know what? I think I want to be an interpreter, right? So that was my original goal. And then I get into high school and I happen to be on a high school campus that has mainstream deaf students.
Oh, wow.
Now, I didn't know that they were mainstream. To me,
Wow.
they were kids like me and you, just kids, right? That knew sign language, that's how they communicated. And so I knew enough to be able to go up to them and be like, "Hi, my name is Stacy. Can you teach me?"
Mhm.
So my freshman year, I became friends with some deaf students at my high school. And then I think it was in between sophomore and junior year or in between freshman and sophomore year, my mom signed me up for RCC sign language classes. So
Yeah.
I did ASL 1, 2, 3, ASL 1, 2, 3 in high school.
Wow.
So I would drive to RCC and, I was pretty fluent in sign language by that time. I had deaf friends. I was part of the community. Um, and then I became a paraeducator in a deaf and hard of hearing class because I was fluent in sign language. They opened a new class, placed me right in there. And for 5 years, I was a paraeducator. So I learned, how to teach, strategies, all those things. And then while I was a paraeducator, I said to myself, I don't want to be an interpreter. I want to be the one giving the information. So
Wow.
that's when I decided to go to school to be a teacher for the deaf. But of
Okay.
course, my route went like this. I didn't get straight into it. I ended up being a general education teacher for about 5 years and then came back to the field.
I gotta say, so Elijah was in a special education preschool because he had other behaviors. He had some sensory needs. He would just yell and scream. And even when he was first born, when the moment he was born, he was beet red and he just screamed and he wouldn't stop until we swaddled him tightly. So
Mm,
I knew then that there was some type of sensory need the day I gave birth to him.
right.
But I thought, okay, maybe it's just his personality. And even now, when he gets upset, he will eventually come back, but it takes him a minute.
Hmm.
So he was there for, and he had an aide in the classroom with him. Well, he was at a preschool, special education preschool for about 2 years. Then he went to kindergarten and he had an aide in the classroom with him because um, he just still had those behaviors. I'm telling all of this backstory because all of this time, from the time he was 2, had speech, he had OT, and we were working with him at home. And I thought, okay, I'm just gonna have to go completely ASL
Hmm.
because I'm not seeing the progression in his spoken language. And I would stay awake at night, just praying and just being like, how do I best support him? So this entire time I'm taking American Sign Language classes. And when we, so that for his kindergarten year, we tried to go to the School of the Deaf, but he needed additional support in the class, and it just wasn't a good fit. And I was so disappointed. So then we had him into a special education class with an aide. And he was, although he no longer needed the aid over time because he stopped having those behaviors, we were still not able to communicate. We would sign a little bit at home and more as the weeks and months and years went on, but they weren't signing it at his school. And this entire time, from the time he's 3, I'm asking, I really want him to be in a class that's offering American Sign Language and spoken language. And so for those of you who don't understand, in the deaf community, there can be two very strong opinions. There
Right.
are people who are very adamant about only using ASL with your deaf or hard of hearing child full time, no spoken language. And then there are people who say, do not sign with them. You're going to make them rely on it, and they're not going to develop spoken language. The tricky part about that is that just like there are no children who are the same, hearing children, there are no two deaf or hard of hearing children the same. And we got his hearing loss diagnosis when he was 2. And
Hmm.
so, although he was hard of hearing, he still was missing a considerable amount of residual hearing up until 2. So, it wasn't until finally, for first grade, I'm talking with the school and they say, you know what, we actually do have a total communication class that they call it immersion now, right? Immersion.
No, I think it's still total communication as
Oh,
far as I know. If they change
okay.
it to immersion, that'd be fairly new, and I didn't know about it yet.
Okay, maybe not. I think that's the term they used, but so a total
Okay.
communication. So I kid you not. I'm not exaggerating. Elijah starts this class in October of 2025. By January, the amount of spoken language, it is almost like it happened overnight. Now, obviously, from the time he's 2, we're
He's been
reading, we're
building.
talking, it's building, 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 but
Right.
whatever it was about being in this classroom and maybe the confidence of, hey, everyone around me is aided.
Hmm.
Oh, and then also the layering of the spoken language, but then also adding in the ASL to fill in the blanks, and it just made a difference. So for any parent out there who's feeling confused about how to best support your child, some children may do better all spoken language or all ASL, but there are going to be kids who do benefit from mixing the two. And my child was definitely one of them. And it could be a myriad of reasons. The fact that he was aided later, the fact that he also had additional needs. Because of those extra components, he needed both of these things together. And okay, so Dr. Hall is Elijah's teacher. I don't know if I said that. She's his Devon Hard of Hearing teacher. But when he comes back next week, I think you're going to be so taken back.
I'm excited.
He is so much language, and now oh, I can't believe it sometimes. And now it's more so about the grammar. So it's about the sentence structure, and he'll say something and I'll give him the correct way to say it, and then he'll say it. And it's just
Right.
about practicing it. And even
Exactly.
the clarity of speech.
And you don't have to do it in a structured way either.
I
It's just a
know,
matter of fact, like, oh no, this is how we say it. He says it, you move on,
I
you know?
know, I
Yeah.
know. And even out like we had speech over the summer, and I noticed I was like waiting to see if she understood what he said, and she would repeat it back to me. I was like, she understood. Because for me at home, me and his dad and his siblings, we understand him. it's sometimes strangers may not. I'm noticing that outsiders are understanding him. So I want to say thank you so much for what you're doing and how much of an impact it has when there is a teacher who feels like they have a God calling. I think that that impacts how you approach your job. And then also, I really do feel that your experience with having a sibling with a special need gives you, although it was hard for you, but it does give you a layer of empathy, compassion, understanding. Also, to teachers, I just want to say how much of a difference it makes to parents when you communicate. You're really good at communicating. You're so good at it. So and as for me, I'm nervous. I'm like, ugh. My baby is with
Of
strangers.
course, of course.
And he's not necessarily an easy child. I would say he's hard, but he has moments. And so when you know that someone's like, hey, and you're so spot on. You'll say, Elijah said this or that or did this. I'm like, yep, I believe it. He does that. He does that.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that you do that with me. So thank you. You're gonna say something. I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I think a lot of it has to do I'm not your typical I don't think I'm your typical DHH teacher. And I do believe it's because I do have a special education experience background, right? Because my brother was special needs my whole life. My mom was a special ed teacher. I volunteered in multiple different classrooms. I had experience with multiple teachers, right? Because every summer during high school, she'd have me volunteer in a different classroom. I worked the visually impaired. I worked with mod severe. I worked with the medically fragile. So I was able to get experience across the board there. I also taught general ed, so I know for second and kindergarten. So I kind of know the expectations and the pacing of what special education is, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I'm also a very sensitive soul myself. And
Mm,
I used to think something was wrong with me
mm,
because when I was growing up, being so sensitive and crying, if people aren't sensitive, they're like, what's wrong with you? Why are you crying?
right.
There's
Right.
something. So internally, I'm like, there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until I was in my 30s that I started taking admin classes. Now, that's not the route I want to go, but
Yeah.
I did start taking an admin class and I had to take a leadership strength survey.
Yeah.
And it told me that my strength was my sensitivity, my empathy, and my compassion.
Yeah.
And at that point, I realized God made me this way
Yeah.
because if I wasn't sensitive, I would not understand the sensitivity of my DHH students.
Yeah.
And all of them have a very common thing of insecurity, thinking something's wrong with them, very sensitive. I don't think I've met a DHH student that's not sensitive.
Wow.
And I feel like I can communicate with them on a emotional level, which helps me understand where they're coming from. And then I can give them the words that they need to feel understood. And then once they feel understood, then you work on that confidence, right? Because I don't think I believed in myself either when I was younger. So
Mm,
that's also a passion of mine
yeah.
to build the confidence of my students. And a lot of them come to me with that thought process of I can't do it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I meet every kid where they're at and I just build them from there. And then I also understand on an emotional level what they're going through. And so not only was it my brother and my mom, but I think it was also because of the way I was built of being such a sensitive, empathic person, taking on everyone else's emotions and being able to read behavior. And I really do like read every nuance, right?
Wow.
Some they could just shift in their mood slightly and I will notice that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I believe
So
that.
I'm very in tune to the emotions and the frustration. I kind of know when to back off, and then the other thing to say, you were talking about the spectrum, right?
Yeah.
Some people are here, some people are here. I've always been the entire spectrum
Wow.
because I believe every kid is different and you meet them where they're at. If they need spoken language, you use spoken language. If they need sign language, you use sign language. If they need both, you use both. It's whatever that child needs.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that so much. And it kind of it kind of leads me into my next question is what do you wish more educators understood about the strengths of DHH children?
I think they need to take the ceiling off. There,
Ah,
there is no ceiling, right? You just you see this kid and you say they're capable and you make them believe they're capable. That kid's going to do what they believe they can do.
come on. I believe it. Yeah,
Yeah. So if they don't believe they can do it, they're going to show you they can't do it. You have to believe in them before they do.
I love it. I love,
And positive reinforcement. Don't focus on the negative. Focus
yeah,
on the things they're doing right. Give that more attention and they're going to do more of the right. You focus on the negative, they're going to do more of the negative. So it's about making sure you identify their strengths, building them up where they're at, and then building on what they already have.
I love that. And then for parents, I'm going to wrap up our interview, but this is something that I always ask parents or individuals who are allies. How can family members or people on the outside best support someone who has a sibling with a special need? Maybe at the church or sibling. You said that you used to go spend time with your aunt and uncle and your family. So, what can people do to support the family, to be allies?
Include them. Yeah. That didn't happen always in my family. My mom and dad often felt isolated,
Yeah.
and every emotion they went through, I went through. So if they felt rejected, I felt rejected.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hurt that went with that. So I think just having some understanding, give some grace, and don't exclude them. Include them in family gatherings, include them in whatever you're doing.
And in 20 years from now, if your DHH students look back at this interview, what is something that you want to tell them or share with them?
Well, I am a collector of people. And every student that I've had has etched a spot in my heart. So I continue to keep in touch with families, kids, whatever it may be. Somehow I keep a tab on, I'd say about 90% of the students that I've taught in deaf and hard of hearing. I
Uh,
wouldn't say general ed, I don't remember those students. But my deaf and hard of hearing students, I'd say I keep in touch with at least 90% of them. And I'm cheering them on. I'm always here. I'm always an ally in their corner, in the family's corner. I'm a good person for resources. So, like, if, they've moved on and they come back in touch with me and they're having like a challenge or they don't know what to do, I can kind of give them the resources and guide them in the right direction. Or just be that support and listen because I will always be there to understand and care. I don't stop caring because they left my classroom.
That is so beautiful. Dr. Hall, thank you for being on the Calm and Courageous podcast, a parent's guide to powerful allyship and raising children with disabilities. Thank you so much.
Thank you.